Hello everyone, it is Joe here from Omnipoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon. If you're looking for PTCGO codes, including the stuff from Vivid Voltage, make sure you go ahead and check out the Potown store. You can get a 5% discount on your orders using that code Omnipoke. What a year 2020 was. Really was insane. Anyone who's in the Pokemon community will tell you that things got a little bit weird this year for sure, and I wanted to do a little run through what I was buying and selling in 2020 because really is a super unique year. This is also going to be the basis of my sort of preparation for 2021, my strategies, my preparation, and what I'm looking for in the next coming year. So just first of all, just keep in mind when I'm talking about this that I do have a full-time job. I also have other revenue streams, YouTube, as you're watching right now. Twitch, definitely towards the start of the year, I was streaming a lot more, but since the lockdown, I wasn't streaming as much because tournaments are no longer around, so I've been playing much less Pokemon. My Potown sponsorship, which hopefully you listened to at the start of the video, you can see that I'm getting paid by them. Commentary, of course, I do. eBay, I have begun selling in October, so only just recently that's become a new revenue stream for me, as well as having tournament earnings and sponsorship while I play Pokemon. So, yes, I'm earning money, I'm a grown adult man, and at the same time, bear in mind that my usual expenses were minimal. I was traveling far, far less. That was one of my biggest expenses in previous years, be it flights to tournaments or just social travel, going up and down to London to watch Chelsea Football Club, the team that I support, and, all other travel to see friends and all that sort of stuff. A lot of fuel expenses, which aren't there anymore, driving up and down the country to play in tournaments as well as flying. So, yeah, my expenses were very, very different this year to normal. I essentially just have my living costs, and then the rest was available to spend. So, yeah, and then just a quick note on my collection goals and how long I've been collecting for. I've been collecting for 12 years, and my main goals are to complete the Wizards of the Coast era holos from all sets, excluding currently Legendary Collection and Base Set 2 because they're reprint sets. I do have a number of the cards, but I'm not super fussed about having them graded. I'm currently 81% complete with that goal, and later on in the video I'll show you the gaps that I still have to fill. I'm also trying to complete binder sets of every English set of Pokemon up to the Ultra Rares. I'm not fussed by Rainbow Rares, and I'm not fussed by a lot of the gold trainer cards because I just don't see much point in collecting those, like having a random Heroes medal. Like, I don't really care that it's gold. I don't really care about Heroes medal. I care more about the artwork of Pokemon. So I'm trying to complete binder sets all the way up to Ultra Rares, I think it is, so not all the secret rares. But I will cherry pick as well certain cards from certain sets if I think they're worth picking up. And I'm also trying to complete my Worlds deck collection. Not many people collect the World Championship decks, but I think they're really nice pieces of history. And as a player, as well as a collector, I think it's a great thing for me to collect, and I really enjoy my collection so far with that. And that's still a goal that's ongoing. So let's talk about the breakdown of what I've been buying throughout 2020. PSA cards were one of my biggest spends. I spent £8,887 and 84 pence on PSA cards across the year. Some of the big ones, some of the real highlight cards, I was able to pick up a PSA 9 Pikachu Prism Bandai Cardass card before this got super hyped. I was able to buy it for £27.50. Now this is close to a four-figure card. It has really done triple jumps up in price as it gained a lot more exposure in the hobby. One of my personal favorite sort of mini sets to pick up was the Raikou, Suicune, and Entei first edition PSA 9 holos from Neo Revelation. Some of the best cards from that set. I'm still looking to get that Ho-Oh from Neo Rev. That's one of the biggest whiffs that I have from that set. But that was £450, and I think pretty much at this point you could buy each individual one for that sort of price if you were lucky. Another set right at the start in January I got was the Misaki promo set in PSA 9. One of my favorite sets of all time. I love the Japanese vending series, and the Misaki cards have such a great story behind all of those. And more recently, actually in December, I was able to pick up a Tropical Wind from '04. Not a world stamped one, but still just a really nice card and a really nice piece of history. And Scott Pratt actually just did a video on the Tropical Wind cards, so there's probably more exposure to those from the time that I bought it, which is also pretty cool. Interestingly, you'll notice some of the low prices on this right-hand side. I mean, I was able to pick up even, this is still in 2020, like Skyridge Hollows for less than £50, the Magcargo, the Ledian. Yes, they're not the most popular species or whatever. Maybe not the top artworks from Skyridge, but still, they're ticking things off the list and getting me closer to completion. £20 Fire Red Leaf Green Hollows in PSA 9. This is the only EX era set that I want to complete in PSA. I believe Fire Red Leaf Green is just a standout set in the EX era because it's a throwback to the original 151, and obviously it was in conjunction with the Fire Red Leaf Green games which came out, so I definitely think that's a popular set going forward, and one that I've opened a box for and really enjoy that set. So I'm trying to get that set complete in 9s or above. Not too much else out of here. I've picked up some random cards here and there, like Hana-chan's Slowking, the Korokoro promo, just some nice cards that at the time were inexpensive to pick up and cool collection pieces. So not necessarily ones that are always on my list. For example, the Pikachu Level X, the Advent of Arceus promo. Again, like, this isn't necessarily something that I am trying to complete the full set of Advent of Arceus, but it was just an artwork that I really enjoyed. And I think prices have got to a point where you can't really do that much more, so I might have to be more stringent throughout the year. You can see as well, I was picking up some Black Star promos later on in the year for fairly low prices, basically the cost of grading. So I'm pretty much just cutting out the middleman, saving myself some time of getting the raw card, scouring through all the dud copies that I think wouldn't hit the 9, and then just getting it slabbed myself, which would take another like 8-9 months. So even though these cards aren't particularly rare or particularly sought after, I think a lot of people do enjoy the Black Star promo set. Just getting these, bird in the hand kind of deal. It's already graded 9. It's just something I can put to the back of my mind now. I do like the Black Star promos, so something to keep an eye on going forward. Next up, modern boosters. I also obviously play the game as well as collect the modern sets. I try and complete sets. Like I said, at least all the full arts from most sets and all the VMAXs and stuff from modern era. So I do open a good amount of product as well. I spent £2,855 overall on sets. Hidden Fates tins, only picked up 6 of these. I probably should have bought more Hidden Fates. At the time, I bought them for £18.52, I think it was, each. So, I got them before they were spiking, and I think this slide is really important to take note of, especially if you're a newer collector. Everything that you'll see here was basically bought at the retail price, and I never really went back to sets after they had, hit that secondary market and started doing backflips and going really high up in price. Essentially, I would let it go if it was beyond my price point. That's especially the case for Hidden Fates. I enjoy the set. I still have plenty more to complete from it. But it's one of those things that's on the back burner for me right now because I believe prices are silly for modern product. So I'm just sort of leaving them as they are. But yeah, it's one of those goals that I can sort of put a pin in right now and wait to come back to. I think the only thing that is outlying here is the Darkness Ablaze case that I bought for £700. That's a huge overspend for the Darkness Ablaze boosters case, especially at the time of purchasing. It was like pretty quickly after the release, and it had started spiking immediately. I think I should have been more patient in this case. I pretty much was just genuinely concerned that I wasn't going to be able to get the product, and that's such a bad misconception to have with modern. You should basically always be able to get those things. And you can see if you're comparing the £700 for the Darkness Ablaze case compared to Vivid Voltage, the next set which came out other than Champion's Path, the little holiday set, I was able to buy that for £170 cheaper. So and this was because I pre-ordered Vivid Voltage. I basically bought Darkness Ablaze, realized that I overpaid, and then immediately bought the Vivid Voltage case, like I think within the same week, because I wasn't happy paying over the odds for modern product as well. So the small thing to bear in mind there for sure. I think some of my favorite things, other than the Hidden Fates tins, were the Japanese Charizard VMAX theme decks. I just think for their price point, the box itself looked amazing, so if you are a sealed collector, just definitely a cool thing to have that you can display. and within the box, just good value. You get the VMAX and a couple of Vs. So yeah, really cool box. And was also, before we had our hands on Darkness Ablaze stuff, which is also pretty cool. So the little world deck collection that I'm working on, my spend was just £219. These aren't really expensive products, but just difficult to source, really difficult to find. I've spent many occasions scouring eBay, scouring cardmarket.eu. That's actually where I got the top 3 decks. These are all card market purchases. And the 09 decks were an eBay purchase where I bought all 4 for 100 of the 2009, which is really cool. But yeah, I have a few gaps left for the world's deck collections, and should be pretty close now to finishing that set. I think the biggest one that I was happy to tick off the list was the Truth, Ross Cawthon's deck, mostly because a lot of people opened the decks just to have a proxy of the Tropical Beach that came in the products, because Tropical Beach is an expensive card and has been since its release, because it was limited print only to people who attended the World Championships. So people would buy the Ross Cawthon decks just to have proxies. So yeah, it was cool to actually find a sealed copy of that. I open the decks, so I'm happy to buy opened as long as they have the 60 cards within them. But in this case, I was able to buy all of these as sealed decks and open them up. I think they'll never really have like good investment value. Even though they are historic pieces, they're not real Pokemon cards, and not many people are that interested in the game's history. And if they are, they can just proxy up the decks anyway, or make them with real cards. So I think there's not necessarily like a huge market for them. I just really like them as like sort of history pieces, and keeping them all together to have a complete, 04 all the way up to 2021, hopefully. And obviously there wasn't one in 2020. No World Championships happened in 2020, unfortunately. And I am actually thinking of making decks based on the POG 2020 online championships that we had. But that's still something that I'm sort of doing in the background. So yeah, having a nice catalogue of all of those decks just to look through really is really cool, because they are historic and it does show, the progression of the game and how the game was played back then, which is something I really enjoy. And I'm a player again, so it's a big part of what I enjoy Pokemon for. Next up, my spend on tournament-specific cards as well as miscellaneous promos. So the only real cards I bought for specific tournaments, so obviously I open a lot of product, so I naturally have like a lot of the trainer cards, a lot of the chase cards as well, I'll just naturally pull. But in this occasion, I had to purchase 4 Zacian Vs from Sword and Shield, and some Orangaroos. I also was planning on playing Magcargo GX potentially for the Malmo Regional Championships. Glad I didn't, because I got top 16 with ADP Zacian instead. That's the list right in front of you, just for a little flashback. I actually should have top 8'd this tournament, and I made a mistake in game that cost me a chance to play in top 8, which is a problem. But yeah, I spent £208 on the cards, and actually getting that top 16 got me 2 booster boxes and $500. That is a taxable $500, so maybe a little bit less. But essentially, I easily broke even on the Zacians that I purchased, especially because I would have had more tournaments out of them if it wasn't for Corona. But there you go. Zacian's a pretty good card, and yeah, from release, that card was super expensive because super playable, as you can see there. I also picked up a couple of the promo Zards, as well as a Gardevoir promo from the Illustrator Grand Prix, I think it was. Both of these cards, Gardevoir was the 2019 winner, Charizard being the 2020 winner. And I just think these are really cool collector piece cards, great artwork on them. They are non-holographics and they are heavily distributed, so they're never gonna, go to the moon, I don't think, because they're not that rare. But still great pieces. One of them says Charizard on it, so I bought a second copy as well, just to give myself a better chance of getting at least 110 to have for my collection, and possibly sell off the other copy if it doesn't hit that 10, or even if it does and I get 2 10s, that would be awesome. So yeah, that's the miscellaneous promos that I've purchased. I don't actually dabble that much in Japanese promos. It might be something that I look to do more in future. Right now, prices are so high on literally everything in the hobby that I'm having to be more funneled into the things that I definitely enjoy, rather than being able to just pick and choose and cherry pick cards that I think are interesting here and there. I'll have to respect them from a distance right now, because I just don't have the resources to buy more and more cards. So yeah. This year as well, I did a couple big changes. I spent £1,380.20 on binders, storage, and upkeep costs. So the first thing I did was I went ahead and bought some of these cases that you can see here, these sort of metal cases that are lockable, to store my PSA cards. This was a really awesome solution that I found online from another YouTuber from the UK, actually, who stored their slabs in this, and it worked an absolute treat. So I actually have 5 of these cases now. Kind of look like Seto Kaiba when I'm storing my cards, but these were really awesome. So yeah, I think it was like under £100 to get these 5 boxes, which stores like 1,000 PSA cards, which is crazy. I may end up having to buy a few more of these actually, just as my collection expands. But yeah, these are an awesome solution for my PSA storage, whereas previously they were sort of split up into different like ETB things and stuff like that, which just wasn't ideal, whereas these fit very, very nicely for the sort of needs that I have. Also, you can see some random things like a microfiber cloth, white gloves, and Plast X cleaner, which is actually plastic polish for your cars. But you can use these to clean your PSA cases, which I found from some of the members from E4, and I've done that for some of my older cases, and it really is a really great solution to make your old, potentially like scuffed PSA cases. You know, there was a time before we had sleeves for our PSA cards, so they would naturally just get scuffs here and there. So you can actually get a lot of those sort of old scratches out and just really make the case look a lot cleaner by having those things. And, you know, extremely inexpensive. The Plastex bottle that I still have still has like plenty of the stuff left in it to polish more PSA cards. And this is also going to be important for when I'm selling PSA cards. If it is some of my older inventory, I can get a quick wipe on the case before taking photos for eBay or Instagram to just make sure that the card looks the best it can, really, to get the best price for it, which is going to be important. I also bought some extra cardboard storage boxes. They're relatively inexpensive. I also bought an LED ring light, which is currently in use for this video, as well as a tripod. I've just blinded myself looking straight at that light. And there's a tripod as well for a camera, which is pretty cool. Just some small things here and there. And I've also done a big update with my binders. Previously, my entire collection was in 3-ring binders, the Ultra Pro Collector's albums. And I've actually gone towards Vault X binders, firstly for space issues, secondly because Vault X is a zip folio, so you can block out dust much more easily because you literally zip the top, and that was something that I had a workaround with. Literally, I just put playmats on top of all of my Ultra Pro portfolio albums because I have cats, I have dogs, there's naturally a lot of pet hair around, and cats sometimes as well want to jump on top of your things, so I had to have a bunch of playmats covering the top of all of my binders previously, which was becoming like a silly problem, really. So having these Voltex binders has been a really nice upgrade. I also don't have to worry about binder damage from the 3-ring binders. I never overstuff the binders, so I don't think I've got any damage on any of my previous cards now that they are transferred into the Voltex stuff. That was a really minor concern, but I know a few people in the community were mentioning that as a problem, and I think for transport and stuff like that, it's just much easier to have the Voltex binders. So I've got them all uniform now in these binders. I ended up having to buy 35 zip folio binders because I, have collections starting back from base set going all the way up through. I also have a lot of Japanese sets as well. So yeah, I have a ton of binders. Now full took me like 3 weeks to transfer all of the cards from those old 3-wing binders into the Vault X binders. And I actually want to do some more reshuffling of those binders as well, and I'm dreading to think about it because it's going to take a long time. But yeah, I also updated a bunch of the Ultra Pro sleeves as well. You can see I bought 7 packs of 100, I think it was, so 700 new Ultra Pro sleeves. Basically, if there was old scuffed sleeves in any of the Ultra Pro binders, I would, in all my binders, I have a colored sleeve around all of the cards and then put them in to now side-loading pocket pages. But previously, I would sleeve them bottom to top, so it meant that no air would get into the top of the binder pages. So I was refreshing those sleeves if any were scuffed or damaged or anything like that. So yeah, I got a few Ultra Pro sleeves as well. You don't think about all these costs all the time, but yeah, it's something to make your collection look much nicer and store them perfectly, which I really value. As you can also see, I did a big Troll and Toad gap filler order that was literally picking up, random rares, random holos, random like GXs, EXs from all sorts of eras. So didn't want to do like a full list because it was literally like a 5-page thing that I did all at once from Troll and Toad. I don't order from Troll and Toad too often because it is from the US and I had to pay a big import fee on this. But it's the easiest solution just to get loads of random like uncommons, commons, and all this other stuff, all from one place that they consolidate and send out in one box, which is far easier for me to track than things like Card Market, where I'm going and buying the individual cards. Then if there are ever disputes and stuff, you can it's all sorts of different steps. Doing it card by card. Tron and Toad, sometimes you pay a bit more, sometimes you don't get the best condition cards, but these are binder copies for me as well, so for the majority of the time I didn't put any disputes in. I think I just did like 4 or 5 cards which were either in very bad shape or just weren't the card that I was asking for. I remember getting like a non-holo Mamoswine, for example, from Legends Awakened, which was it was a theme deck copy when I wanted the holo. I don't know why I remember specifically that card, but there was like a handful of cards that I had to go back to them and refund and stuff. But it's just a lot less hassle to do it all in one order than anything else. You can see I bought a random surprise time machine. That's actually for my cube as well. So a random one-off cube card that was actually surprisingly expensive, but it's an old card and a pretty good one as well, so playable. But yeah, that's my spending on essentially just making my binders a lot more secure now. It's a real peace of mind, really, to have them in Voltex binders now. It sets me up to have them all uniform as well going forward. I also have like 3 currently empty Voltex binders, so that should help me for the next like 4 sets, I think. Possibly the whole year I'll be fine without having to buy more binders, which is really cool. And this was, one of these things that I should have done probably a couple of years ago over time, but now I've just sort of done it all this year. Just because I've had more time on my hands, I thought this is a pretty good opportunity to update my binders. And I'm really, really happy with the lockable storage boxes. They are just amazing. They're sturdy, and they're a great size solution for PSA cards. They fit very, very nicely. It's actually a toolbox, and if I show you with my mouse, you can take out this top bit, and you can also take out the movable parts here, and these 3 rows all fit PSA cards like pretty much perfectly. So yeah, I think you can get about 250 or so cards in each one, which is just amazing. So yeah, and it can actually hold the weight as well with the handle quite happily. I've used them a lot transporting them. So yeah, that's excellent and something I'll keep in mind for future, because the PSA cards are my collection is going to be growing for PSA cards even further, I would imagine. Speaking of which, PSA Submissions was by far my biggest spend of 2020. I spent £14,291.97 just on sending off cards to grade. I sent cards off in February, 232 cards, a split of Japanese and English. I've had them back, actually, and I have done a returns video for the English part of the submission. Actually had a corrupted file for the Japanese side of the submission. It was a lot of Jungle, Gym 2, and Neo 1 holos from back in the day. Had pretty good grades of those, to be honest. So those cards are coming back. They have come back, but all the rest are still actually at PSA. My May submission, August, October, and obviously November. These are all bulk submissions that I've done through Graded Gem. I'm obviously living in the UK. I know the guys well. It's an excellent service, and I'm going to continue using PSA via Graded Gem to submit a ton more cards. There's just a lot less risk in PSA grading now. Prices have got to a point where it eliminates a lot of the risk. And even if cards go all the way back to where they were at the start of 2019, for example, just the cost of bulk grading is so low that I don't feel I'll ever be losing out with the sort of cards that I'm sending. A lot of vintage cards, in good condition. And so I think it's risk-free for me. So it's going to be one of those things where I just go through the process of grading as much as possible throughout 2021. So I would imagine I'm going to have probably a similar spend this year with Graded Gem, if not more, as I just get more duplicates and other vintage cards just sort of sent off that have been sat around in shoeboxes for a long time. Bear in mind, I have been collecting for a number of years. I opened a ton of the boxes back in the day. All the vintage stuff I've got here behind me, that's the Shadowless box, for example. You can see there. Got the Rocket Jungle Fossil, all of these behind me, Neo, Genesis, this has become like a really, really hot set. All of these things, I've opened all the cards, kept all the cards, tons of things to grade throughout there. So, even certain common and uncommons are worth sending right now, popular species. So that's just going to be something that goes on and on throughout the year. And hopefully I get the May cards back in the next couple of months, because I'm pretty excited to get those sorts of cards back. I've got a ton of Charizards in the May submission, as well as some more great Japanese cards as well. A lot of the Versus series, non-holos of my favorite species. So that's a set that I really enjoy. So that's the rundown of all of my spend. I spent £27,921 in Pokemon cards, and all that sort of stuff that goes around it in 2020. Kind of jaw-dropping, really, when you think about it, and it is a lot of money at the end of the day. I'll split that up into dead money and invested capital. Invested capital essentially is the PSA cards that I purchased, as well as the PSA submissions that I sent off, because effectively, right now, I could take that money, well, not the submissions until I get those cards back, but I can take the PSA graded cards and sell those cards, so it's money that I haven't just sort of thrown away. Whereas dead money would be the product that I opened, the cards that I used for tournaments, the storage costs and all that sort of stuff, the binders, the boxes, those sorts of things, because I won't be getting any money back out of those. Obviously, that's not completely true. I can send a lot of my bulk back from all the boosters that I've opened. Any great pulls, I'm probably going to grade and either keep or sell at some point anyway. So technically, a lot of it isn't dead money, but I've just put it in that air quotes right now because I'm not expecting to see any money come back from those cards in a long, long time. A lot could be said for the same reasons for my PSA graded cards, but a lot of the cards that I try and purchase are vintage cards, which I believe are safer overall. And this is, at the end of the day, my main hobby is trying to complete sets, and it's a goal that I've had for many years. So yeah, that's the overall breakdown of my spending in 2020, which is quite a sizable figure, I would say. Be interesting down below if you guys have kept track of any of this stuff yourself, and let me know down below if you guys track this sort of thing, because I was surprised myself about the number. I obviously knew about I bought everything, so I knew about all of them, but a lot of the time I'm not being as strict as I am and not being as careful as I have been with looking at all these and looking at the spend. So going forward in 2021, I'll be looking much more closely about how much I spend. I actually did start up my eBay selling in October. Prices were absolutely wild in October, and I thought that it was an amazing chance to sell some cards. I only really listed about 30 cards because I was completely new to selling on eBay. This was basically just going to be a test. As you saw, I have a ton of cards coming back from Graded Gem eventually throughout 2021, so I'm really glad I got some selling experience in. I tried really hard to get some decent photos. You can see some of the photos of the cards that I sold. The English Lapras from Fossil and the Sabrina's Gengar from Gym 2. These were some of the cards that I got back from that February submission from Graded Gem, and obviously I've pulled most of these cards that I sent into PSA, so I have the booster boxes, so I think it adds the appeal of the photograph, and I've tried to have a decent background there as well. It's something I'm going to work on. I've got a better camera now because I just have a better phone, so I'm hoping the camera quality, the picture quality is going to be even higher the next time I start putting things up to eBay. But essentially it was my first experience of selling cards through eBay. So I'm glad that I got that experience, even though I've only sold like 18 cards, I think it was, and I only really put like 30 up. I took the remainders down, not because I wasn't like happy with the price or anything. I just, it was coming into Christmas time. I didn't want things to get lost in the post because I just thought it was a higher chance of that happening. So I'll probably put those things back up at some point in 2021. I just want to update the photos and all that good stuff. But yeah, I've got back £2,306 so far from the cards that are in front of you from what I've sold. Mostly PSA 8s, which I'm not a collector of, and a lot of Japanese PSA 9s. And again, for the Japanese sets, they are easier to get 10s on than the English counterparts, so I will be collecting 10s of the Japanese sets. Only really of the sets that I opened. So Gym 2, Neo 1, and Jungle were the sets that I opened in Japanese. So I've basically completed those. I might need to upgrade some here and there, but that's really a back burner project. I'm mostly working on English first, and then I'll work towards Japanese. So I'm basically just selling off duplicates that I have right now. All of these are duplicate cards that I own. And yeah, the eBay is a Pokemon trader if you're interested, and in the UK. And I'll be making sure that I put a lot more stuff up in the future. But yeah, these are the sales that I've had so far. I was actually really happy with the prices because, as it turned out, October, November time was basically the highest spike that we've seen to date in Pokemon. So obviously I've been tracking the prices all year, and the majority of my spending was at the start of the year rather than the end of the year, because I have been sort of put off by a lot of these prices as a buyer. It may not look like it by the amount I've spent this year, but a lot of those purchases were towards the start of the year. And it was, finally that time to pull the trigger in October when I thought prices were extremely high. And if you look at some of these prices now, I think I got very good prices at the time for these cards. Some of them obviously may have gone up, some may have gone down, but yeah, that's just a little update for my eBay selling. So, with that out of the way, with my spending and sales from 2020, now to look on to 2021, what my goal's going to be and how I'm going to be tackling Pokemon in this completely new environment that we found ourselves in, with so much more hype, so much more interest, so much more competition buying and selling on eBay as well now. So it's going to be a really interesting year, and it's going to be cool to see if this hype continues or not. In a way, I'm kind of relieved that there's been a lot of a die down throughout December. Possibly it was seasonal. Possibly it's just because prices have got to a point that many people were put off. And possibly as sales started to go down, it then scared a lot of people who were only buying for investment purposes. So a lot of the sort of sharks who are just trying to be opportunists have got out of the hobby, which I think these are all good things really for the collectibles, so that they can sort of move forward in a much more reasonable manner. So here's what I'm going to be doing in 2021. Firstly, I need to be much, much more strict with myself. I need to only really purchase PSA cards if they're going to be gaps in my collection, and we'll get to those in a moment, for the What's It era cards, because essentially I don't have the luxury of just going, ooh, that looks cool, let's buy that, because now it's like, ooh, that looks cool, I can't buy anything for like another month now because of how much I had to pay for the thing that looked cool, rather than the thing that's part of my collection now. So I really have to be much more stringent with myself going forward. Also, I need to make sure that I'm pre-ordering modern. This isn't, like, possibly I won't for Shining Fates, but for things like Battle Styles, it doesn't particularly seem like a big collector set, so it probably won't act the same way as Vivid Voltage or Darkness Ablaze. So maybe I'm kind of jumping the gun here, but I just feel that getting out the way with a pre-order gives me the best chance of it being as low as possible. Battle Styles looks really cool from a player standpoint, so I am excited to open that set. We haven't even seen the full set yet, and there's already a lot to get excited about. So, and obviously there's the 25th anniversary set coming out as well later on in the year, which I imagine will be more geared towards collectors than players, and we'll see where that ends up. But I think pre-ordering is definitely something I want to try and do when I can. And also, I really want to finish the World's Deck collection. It's one of these things that just takes a lot of time out of my day, and it's really unfruitful most of the time, because these World's Decks are so low in price that no one really, if anyone has them, they have no incentive to sell them. But I'm just kind of here in the background being like, I desperately want these. So yeah, I look for them all the time, but no one's selling them because there's basically no desirability about them. Apart from exactly me. So we'll see where that goes. But I really, really want to finish that goal. I think I'm only like 5 decks away from completing it. And then as a seller, I want to be much more active selling on eBay. Obviously, that's going to start, when I want to pull these photos back up and get things ready to go for sale. I have a decent amount of cards that are duplicates right now. I have one of those Seto Kaiba sort of boxes full of cards that are duplicates. And I can start posting that, and obviously that's going to get more and more of a steady flow of cards once I get them back from Graded Gem. So that's going to be something that I need to be more alert with But it's cool that I've had that stepping stone with eBay. It makes me a lot more confident selling going forward. And obviously, it's graded cards, so people know the condition of the card. It makes me much more happy to sell those because I'm not going to have any number of sort of disputes about condition. That's one of the reasons why I want to sell graded, because people can see the condition exactly on the card. Yes, there are better 9s than others. Yes, there are better 8s than others, or 10s or whatever. But the photos are there. There's a third party telling you how decent of a condition it is, and that really just cuts out all the nonsense where people are telling you that they think it's this condition, you think it's that condition, whatever. So it should just make everyone involved in the transaction much happier overall. I'm also thinking about Instagram. Obviously, I have somewhat of a platform with YouTube, and in some ways, just having this platform means that I have more to lose, so I won't scam people, if that makes sense, because I have a reputation to keep, and maybe that gives people peace of mind to actually purchase off of Instagram. Obviously, I can avoid a lot of eBay fees that way, but also for trading, possibly looking to put photos up and trade for certain PSA cards, because again, I have a ton of duplicates that I'm happy to get rid of, and I have lots of gaps that I'm looking to fill. So possibly trading on Instagram would be something that I'll do going forward. I haven't actually sat down and done Instagram before. I don't have any Instagram account. I'm a bit of a boomer in that regard. So we'll see where that goes in 2021. And also, like I said earlier, I want to continue to submit more cards to Graded Gem, because in my opinion, these cards don't have a liquid value until I grade them, because I don't want to grade raw cards. Oh, sorry, I don't want to sell raw cards, because either I'm leaving money on the table because I'm selling a card that then someone else can grade and get a higher premium on, but also there's those issues with disputes, and also the price point is just kind of low for the effort, whereas I think there's enough incentive for selling PSA cards, because I physically get enough money back for those cards that I can commit time to it, because I'm very lazy. So yeah, those are my 2021 goals. Just having a quick look at the things that I still need. So yeah, I actually need 7 decks I still need to get from World Championships. I need an 05 Dark Tyranitar deck. I need an 06 Mutric, BLS, and Evolutions. I think these are the most difficult ones to find. I've basically never seen these up for sale. 2007 Legendary Ascent. 2012 I need Teraki Mewtwo and Pasaldio Prism. I don't even know which one that is, but yeah. Those are the decks that I need to complete my World Championship deck collection. In terms of completing my WotC Holo collection, Raichu I need in a 9. I have a 10 set and I have a 9 set, and actually I have 2 10 Raichus, but I need to get a downgrade of a Raichu somehow, so I have a complete 10 and a complete 9 set, just so that if ever I need to sell, I will have a 9 set, which I believe is more desirable than just having like everything but 1 in a 9. You know, I need Vaporeon, Nidoqueen, Aerodactyl, and Articuno are both upgrades. I have this in an 8 and I have this in an 8. Have Dark Blastoise in an 8 as well, so that's an upgrade. Neo Rev gaps, I think Houndoom and Ho-Oh are the ones that I'm most interested in completing. Houndoom has excellent artwork, and Ho-Oh, again, has excellent artwork, but is also one of the top cards to have in the set. Neo Destiny, a number of holos that I still need to pick up. Light Arcanine is going to be one of the more expensive ones for me. Espeon as well, an expensive holographic card. Probably the most expensive one out of all of these, I think, will be Shining Mewtwo, possibly. It's actually my favorite card from Neo Destiny, and I've just never really seen it at a good price. So we'll see where that goes in the future. I need a Weezing from Expedition. I have an 8 of the card, but I'm looking to get the upgrade. It's the last card I need from that set. And then for Aquapolis, a number of holos still required. I have all the crystals. Same for Skyridge, I have all the crystals, just a number of holos that I need to pick up. I think possibly the Raikou or the Alakazam will be the most expensive of this lot. The rest of them aren't super desirable cards in terms of their species. So hopefully they'll be easy ones for me to pick up. And then Prices Sneeze as well as an upgrade job from the Versus series. And I've just got a random picture of Battle Styles there, because I'm also going to be looking at getting stuff from the new sets as they come out. So yeah, this was a bit of a interesting ramble. I don't know, you know, it's one of these things that I just wanted to talk about and have sort of a free-form conversation with you guys, talk about where I'm at with the hobby, what I'm thinking of, how I think it's going to look in 2021. And at the end of the day, I'm a huge collector as well as player, so it's just one of these things where I just wanted to get it off my chest, really. Let me know what you guys thought about this video. Was it interesting to you? Was it entertaining? Is there something you'd like to see more of in the future, videos like this? I am moving house soon. I'm hoping this month. I really am hoping it's this month. So I will have all my cards in one place to actually do some collection-based videos. I know Mahone actually did an amazing collection video on his stuff. I think it was a few months ago now, but I really enjoyed looking through his collection because you just see how passionate people are about these cards, and everyone has their own little quirks and how they do binders and stuff. And obviously I'll have the same. So maybe you guys will be interested in that. I know I did a Twitch stream not long ago going over my PSA cards, but that's just one aspect of my collection. There's tons more to go through. I'm actually so strange that I keep my empty booster packs and boxes. It's not rare to keep boxes, especially old ones, but I've kept literally every booster pack that I've ever opened. You can see that there's some empty Vivid Voltage packs. I've literally kept every pack. So I could even do a collection video on empty boosters if you want to see that as well. So yeah, let me know what you guys thought of the video, and any ideas for more in this sort of area would be really awesome. So yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow with a more usual upload. Cheers.